a positive live chat experience for you. Choose who can participate. Close. All right, peace for Josh B. Howard Shy, right? I'm in Arizona near what I believe to be Tobacco, Arizona, right? And I believe here, I think I'm in like Carmelo or Commence, something like that, Arizona, right? I'm about 50 miles from, um, I'm 50 miles from Flagstaff, right? At the Navajo, let me see if I can turn this around. All right, at the Navajo Trail Trading Post, right? Now, y'all have to forgive me if I told y'all to go to my Instagram because I was talking about shapeshifters, skinwalkers, right? Telling y'all that the native people are very much informed with the history concerning people that's able to shapeshift because they practice it, right? All right, so let's take a walk in here, right? Let me show y'all real quick. All right. Now, I did my Instagram, I did my TikTok, and I did Facebook, right? So, but on each one, well, really on two different ones, I showed y'all, before I got to the main thing, I showed y'all something else. So let's get something different that I didn't get before. Let's get something, let's get something here. Let's see. Navajo children gathered near trading post. You know what? I think I am going to get the same thing unless I find something else. You know what? I'm going to get the same thing because there's something I want to highlight, right? Before I get to the shapeshifters, right? I read this, I think, on my TikTok, and I like this, right? See, I didn't know that the Native American uh, indigenous people participated in World War II. How many of y'all knew that, right? Right? We don't hear about a lot of different racial and ethnic groups participating in the American Army, right? That's interesting, right? So let's get what the Native people were helpful in, right? So it says what? 1969, the Navajo Indian Reservation is officially renamed the Navajo Nation. 1968, World War II Navajo Code Talkers finally receive recognition. Look how it says finally receive recognition when their sacred operation is declassified, right? So I forget, it's on here somewhere where during World War II, right, when they would talk over the radio, the Native Americans uh, spoke in a code where the enemy could not pick up, on whatever they was planning, right? So obviously, however they were speaking during World War II, they were very great at it, right? But the problem is they didn't get recognized until sometime after, because you know how the dictator in America likes to do, similar to so-called Black Americans, where they like to take the credit or hide um, the credit of the real people that has have done incredible job here in America, in America, doing whatever that they do, right? So I found this quite interesting, and I never knew that you know native people participated, right, during World War II. I never knew that, so I found that fascinating. But as you can see, a lot of their history, right? I read some over here too before I get to the shapeshifters, right? Before I get to that, I read some over here too. Last time I was here, uh, over 80%. Let me just read this. 1930, involuntary livestock reduction. Mm, mm. So they was losing, I guess, a great amount of their cattle. But how? During the 1930s, with over 80% of the Navajo livestock killed with no compensations. Oh, so this, so something's going on where there has been intentional folks killing of their livestock, perhaps, and they never receive, um, what would you call that? No, I guess no compensation for it. Occurred in response to federal government concerns about preserving the range and the erosion, uh, slitting up Lake Mead. Now look at that Lake Mead. That's going all the way through Nevada too, from Arizona all the way through. Okay, left the Navajo have long raised sheep for wool and for meat, despite the controversial forced stock reduction. You said forced stock reduction. The Navajo mountain their identity as sheep ranchers to this day. This I find interesting because I think I was in not Wyoming. I think I was in Oregon or Washington or maybe even Idaho. And I read some at a rest area about something taking place where the Caucasians were preventing, um it kind of remind me the origin of you know how you be traveling and they have what's those stations called where you gotta pay tolls, right? um Whatever, man. Let me get to the main event, man. Cause I gotta get out of here. Let me get up out of here. This is the main thing, right? All right, let's get this. It says a skinwalker is a medicine man, or which who has chosen to use his or her power for evil. Now, it says a skinwalker. What is a skinwalker? A shapeshifter. One that can do what? When you come down, it says what? Skinwalker acquire immense superpower, including the ability to transform into animals and other people. Now, like I said on my social media, I said what? Where did mankind get these particular rights and this knowledge from? Well, from the biblical narrative, they get it from what? The fallen ones, the fallen angels. But let's get the rest of it. A skinwalker is a medicine man or witch who has chosen to use his or her powers for evil. You see, chosen. Now, this is very fascinating because it says chosen to use whatever this ability is. It's weird. It's very complex to me because I believe there, how can I put this? When you go into the biblical narrative, you have certain rituals, the holy prophets, the disciples, and Christ them did in righteousness to tap into the supernatural, right? Even Christ himself walked on water, right? Not to say he did a ritual to do it, but however, um, truth be told, one is not definitively described when it came to certain things that um, Christ did, you know, and how he did them. Because you read about Christ spitting in a blind man's eye, and that spit, um, I ain't gonna say the spit literally caused the blind man to see, but he spit in the blind man's eyes, and the blind man began to see for the first time. That is a form of a ritual, right? A skinwalker is a medicine man. So it says a medicine one who understands what? Medicine, or witch who has chosen to use his or her power for evil by taking the form of taking the form of an animal. So they would take the form of an animal to inflict pain and suffering on others. Now, like I described before, I said, why would they do such a thing? There's something that occurs. There's something that occurs when you begin to do certain wicked rites. And there's an energy, a negative energy transformation within the person. And then when you take it a step further and you reach a certain level and then you cause to inflict pain on a person, this is like an energy harvesting kind of thing where it does something not only to the person who they're inflicting pain and terror on, but it actually does something to the individual who is transformed, right? It says what? Skinwalkers are acquired immense supernatural powers, including the ability to transform into animals and other people. And we know angels have the ability to what? Transform into what? Different things such as people. Since skinwalkers wear the skins of the animals into which they transform, it is considered taboo to wear the pelt of those animals. So I think, according to the Native Americans, um, traditions and beliefs, right? I think, let me transfer this over. All right, I think fallen angels, right? Hold on. What I was gonna say? I was gonna say that's the so they don't they may not wear uh a lot of skin of like cattle. You know what I'm saying? They're probably I don't know. I'm probably have to ask a Native American, but you probably would never see them wearing. But to some degree, maybe I'm not understanding it right because I've seen certain movies with Native people having on like a wolf hat, wearing wolf fur. You know what I'm saying? Shoot, and you know, other cattle's fur or skin, right? But the point is, as the Native people, like last time I was in there, I asked a Native American about the skinwalkers, and he pretty much said, yeah, they believe in them, but they don't speak of them because they believe when they talk about them, and it can lure them to you. You know what I'm saying? But how did mankind come into the knowledge of transforming into uh, animals and things of that nature? Well, it comes from fallen angels. Fallen angels are shapeshifters. It tells you in the Bible, right? Be not forgetful how you entertain angel. For some of us have entertained strangers unaware. Who is this right here? Zach Marley. Unc. Which one of my nephews or niece is this? What's up, nephew or niece? Shalom. All right, so look. So fallen angels taught mankind to shapeshift, right? We see that in the Bible on both of the righteous side and the evil side. When the Bible says Christ went up into this cloud, which we know to be a heavenly chariot, what? Two men stood by and began to speak unto the people watching Christ ascend. And what did they say? They said, why stare ye gazing up into heaven? This same Christ, the same Son of Man, shall come in the same like matter, right? So these two men understood, stood by seeing the same thing, and told them, like, look, he's coming back in the same way. That because these two men were not men, they were angels. When holy angels come into this realm, they come into the laws of this realm. And so they can look like a bird, they can look like a wolf, they can look like a person. And the same with the fallen angels. But the fallen angels, I believe, they have. Let me get back in my truck. Y'all give me a minute, right? The fallen angels, right? So So I'm in hold on. I'm in native I'm in Arizona. Let me turn this on. I'm in Arizona, and if you go on my social medias, I was sharing the Native American history about skinwalkers. Mess up. Y'all give me a minute. Give me a minute. 1 minute. 1 minute. 1 minute. All right, shalom, shalom, shalom. Yo, yo. So I hope y'all can still hear me. Hold on. Let me see. Let me see. Let me get off this. Hold on. 1 minute. 1 minute. 1 minute. 8800. There we go. 1 minute. 1 minute. All right. Peace. 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 All right. Yo, look. Look. All right. So I'm leaving the Navajo uh trading post, which is also a fuel station, right? I was talking about skinwalkers, right? Now, a lot of people, some people will call this folklore. Some people will call it mythology, right? And that's why when it comes to religious people, it's a problem because under religion, there's a lot of uh, uh, dictatorship and uh, narcissistic behavior under religion, right? So look, folklore and mythology. See, these type of things they like to classify as myths. Now, when you in the Bible do not definitively go into detail about a lot of I would say, how can I say, real time things that's going on today and that has been going on for thousands of years. I'm gonna utilize this example for y'all, right? I'm gonna show y'all from a biblical um, narrative that when it comes to Sasquatch, werewolves, these different type of things, allegedly, is real. I'm gonna show you how. When you go back into the Bible and you read about when Christ walked on water, go and read that text. And when Peter saw Christ walking on water, what happened? When the disciples saw Christ walking on water, what happened? Became scared at the sight. So much so, so much so, they thought they were looking at a demon. So, showing you what? Showing you that the disciples were aware of interdimensional demonic beings. See, the Bible also mentioned other beings. It just doesn't go into the detail of their history. So when you go into a lot of over there in India history, where they speak on mermaids, when you go into Hades, they speak on mermaids, right? When you even over here in the America, when you go into the Native Americans, the Latinos and the Mexican history. They speak on what? Right? They speak on skinwalkers, shapeshifter, men and women that practice certain rites that requires torture, bloodshed, and different matters, different like acts that you do to pretty much uh what would you say? Like basically to get a supernatural cause a supernatural thing to happen with oneself or to another, right? When we're dealing with this type of stuff. So I tell people all the time, what is going on a spiritual level when it comes to a lot of these things? On a spiritual level, if these things are true and real, right? What is happening? What is happening in the invisible of what we don't see? You see what I'm saying? Why is it that how can I say this? How can I say? Like certain people that suffer from schizophrenia. What's going on there? A lot of religious folks will just chop it up as demonic, right? And leave it at that. Nah, it's not that simple. It's not that simple, right? I'm gonna have to come on here and do a part two of this because I'm probably gonna lose my signal and I don't want to lose this video. But before I get out of here, man, before I get up out of here, you know, uh, let me say again, this stuff that was learned, far as these rituals that these people partaking in, was learned by fallen angels. When you go into Enoch, they tell you that these angels came down and taught mankind a variety of different things. A variety. Some of these things were good, some of these things were bad. But you're not going to hear a lot of uh, believers uh, say what I just said and put it the way I just put it. You see what I'm saying? You know what I mean? It Zodiac's signs are not evil. Okay, zodiac signs, it's a mechanism. It's a spiritual um it's it's something in the spiritual world in the way the Most High set it up before a soul is born into the earth, right? It's different regulations and principles, you know, when a soul decides to come into the earth. It's a mechanism, a spiritual mechanism, right? So that goes to kind of uh debunked or give my opinion against some of these people chopping saying zodiac signs are evil. Nah, it's not. It's not an evil thing, right? But I hope y'all understood a lot what I was saying about shapeshifters and the origin of where mankind got it from, and the fact that these things are real and in the last days, right? Because a lot of y'all still in the matrix. In the last days, this is what's going to cause man not dead because of these going to befall the earth because they're going to think that all along they thought that those were just movies and these things wasn't real. What you see in the movie is a partial truth. With that being said, man, I hope I was making sense, man. I appreciate everybody that was tuning in, man. Let me see who I was tuning in. I know one of my nieces or nephews was tuning in, but whoever was tuning in, I appreciate it. Um, I'm kind of trying to focus right now. I'm driving and I don't want to lose signal. So I'm gonna come back on some other time so I can focus and really give my take on the supernatural, fallen angels, spiritual attachments, and telling y'all the difference between demonic and spiritual attachments. Demons are not necessarily spiritual attachment, though they attach ourselves to us. But people that are dead can attach themselves to us. right? We're gonna go into that, right? So, yeah, Shalom. I appreciate everybody for tuning in, man. Y'all stay tuned into the next live, man. Shalom.